What's been the most amount of money like you've made maybe in a month as a high ticket closer?
Did in total 315,000. Yeah.
315,000. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Closers Network podcast, the only podcast and community that you want to be a part of, guys. If you're looking to add an extra 10 to 30K to your sales commissions every single month as a remote high ticket closer. I'm your host, Mike Sadikian, and not just your host, guys. I'm also a coach, so you can actually get coached by me and other coaches that are part of the Closers Network. If you want to join our community for completely free, make sure you click the second link in the description below, guys, and that'll allow you to get access to our school community. That's SKOOL, and that's the Closers Network on School, guys. We'll give you guys a free training, a free course. You get 5 days a week live free coaching from the same people that have scaled our sales agency, One Call Closers, to almost $200 million in sales in just the last 5 years, guys, are the same people that are providing you guys free coaching through the Closers Network on the school platform. So that being said, guys, today's guest embodies resilience, determination, and the power of transformation. He's actually been a member of our school community since the beginning of the year. He's been very active. He's been very engaged. And we thought we'd do something a little bit different. So this individual is not necessarily from our sales agency, One Call Closers, but he's been on the school platform. He's been very engaged. And actually, a couple people have approached me to ask me to interview him. And so now we're here today. Today's guest has really navigated a lot of highs and lows in entrepreneurship and remote sales. He started his journey selling for Ashley Furniture. Right after that, he actually went on to build a multiple six-figure landscaping company with his wife and faced a lot of challenges thereafter. But what really makes his story remarkable, guys, is his relentless drive and his mission to also build a portfolio of sober living homes for recovering addicts, which we'll get into. He's someone who's learned to surround himself with people that are smarter than him and believes while motivation is great, that drive is everything. Fun fact, he's also married to his high school sweetheart, which seems to be a lot more rare these days. So that's a beautiful story in today's world, which I'd love to also tap into. He's also faced really defining moments in his life that has shaped him to become who he is today, which actually his wife had to give him an ultimatum to get his act together, and even having to file bankruptcy at the age of 23. And all of these experiences, guys, have forced him to confront his beliefs, make bold moves, and maintain a level head. Get ready to be inspired, guys, and learn from someone who's been able to turn things around. Please help me welcome Zack Jenkins. Zack, welcome to the podcast, man.
Appreciate the intro, man.
Thanks for making it out, dude. So where you came in from Arizona?
Yes, from Phoenix.
I'm excited. I'm excited to dive into your story a little bit, so we'll help get some value to our listener today. Why don't you help me understand what the journey was like? It sounds like, hey, your maybe first sales gig was like Ashley Furniture. What was that transition like from going to that into actually maybe starting your own landscaping company? And what were some key challenges or some triumphs that you guys kind of figured out along the way?
Great question. First, though, I want to go back to the school community. Highly, highly, highly recommend everybody get in the school community 100%. There's a lot of value in there.
Awesome.
A lot of value. But yeah, in terms of the journey, right, so I moved to, before Ashley Furniture, my wife and I, we moved to Ohio. And really, I was at a point in my life where I wasn't making much money. I'm trying to figure out how can I make more money? How can I be more in control of my money? Really, how could I earn more? Which brought me to Ashley Furniture.
What were you doing prior to Ashley?
So prior to Ashley, I was driving semi-truck.
Okay.
So I worked at Walmart. My wife and I both worked. God, man, that's a hard time. My wife and I both worked at Walmart. I went to trucking school, and when I was going to trucking school, I then transitioned into driving truck, and then when we moved, I started working at Ashley Furniture. And really, that time in my life, actually before Ashley, when we were both working at Walmart, was probably some of the most defining moments of my life, because it was a point where there was just a lot going on. Right around that time is when we were filing bankruptcy as well. And so anyhow, we moved. I went to Ashley. I sold for Ashley for a little while, and I did okay. But I definitely wasn't I wasn't who I am today in sales. There's no, there's no way.
Would it be fair to say like Ashley gave you some sort of foundation in sales?
100%.
Okay.
Because I like to be very relational, and Ashley has a lot to do with relational. But it taught me, more importantly, during that time, like, you truly can be in control of the direction in your life, right? And so Ashley Furniture, I'm forever grateful for even introducing me to sales, like, of all places. But then after that is when I went back to, after Ashley Furniture, we ended up moving again, and I went back to driving truck. And really at that point was more so because of stability than anything. I made I made okay money, very good money at the time, and driving truck. And I was back in the truck for a number of years and led into management, for a trucking company. And, that's when just several years ago, it was back in 2018, was right around the time that my wife and I looked at each other and really, like, we had Ashley Furniture. Then I started driving truck again. And then I'll never forget this moment, man. Like, so this was right around the time of bankruptcy. We were sitting in the living room, and we had the neighbor kids over. And I only feel like I should share this because I know there's somebody else that in sales that's probably either been through this or going through this. We were sitting in the living room. We were going to take our kids and the neighbors' kids to the park, and like, a truck came pulling in. It was a tow truck. They were there to repo our car. And so, like, at that moment, the tow truck driver, I mean, we were sitting in the living room. We looked out and we're like, what is going on? And at that point, we really didn't know that. Truly, we did not know that the car was up for repossession. We thought we were caught up. However, we were behind more payments than we thought. So immediate panic mode set in, right? That's when I was thinking. I called my mom, who's always been there. My mom helped us out, because we were like one more month behind than we needed to be. But anyhow, the tow truck driver, like, literally, of course, my wife is devastated. Me as a man, I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. The tow truck driver left, and he said, I'm giving you 48 hours to get this caught up.
That's super unusual.
Very unusual. And he said, I'm giving you 48 hours. In the next 48 hours, if it's not caught up, I will be back. And so we made it happen in 48 hours. But at that moment in my life, I'm like, man, there's got to be something more, right? And that's when I really started kind of discovering what else is out there, which led me into, better position driving truck. Again, I stayed in the truck for many years. But yeah, and then it led up to 2018, 2019. So my wife and I were living in Georgia. I was managing a trucking terminal, sorry. And then one day, like, there was, we ended up leaving, came back out of nowhere. Like, there was disagreement within the terminal. Headquarters came down. I lost my job. So I took like 4 weeks off because we were in a much better place financially at that point. Took like 4 weeks off. My wife and I are sitting in the front yard, and we had always agreed never to move back to Florida because that's where we're from. But we were sitting in the yard. We looked at each other like, I feel like we need to go back to Florida, and let's go start a company in Florida. About 3 days later, I was on the road. It was Thanksgiving. It was November. I was on the road. I was headed back to Florida. Literally, we didn't bring anything if it didn't fit on our little tiny, in the back of our truck on this little tiny trailer. And I stayed with my wife's grandparents for a number of months just to because we had no plans. We literally just said, hey, we're going to go back here. We're going to do this.
Wow.
And we went down there, and it was a slow start, a lot of failures in the beginning. But dude, I'm forever grateful for that. Like, because we were able to really, that taught us a lot in that time frame. And it also taught us a lot of how in control are we really with our life at that point.
Is this when in Georgia, is that where you started the landscaping company?
We started it in Florida.
In Florida.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were living in Georgia, and my wife and I looked at each other, like, hey, we need to go back to Florida. We left, and that we started we left. We're like, all right, what can we do in Florida that makes money? We can start cutting grass. And so, like, we didn't really know why. We just felt led to Florida. So we left, and as soon as we got down there, I just started cutting grass, man. I borrowed a lawnmower and borrowed a trailer and just started cutting grass, dude. And my wife stayed in Georgia for just a short period of time because she was babysitting some kids. And yeah, dude, the rest is history, man.
Jeez. I'd love to get into talking about like maybe when the defining moment was for you that it sounds like your wife gave you an ultimatum. How did that impact your personal and professional life? If you can kind of walk us through what that was like.
That was actually that was years prior, right? And so like,
oh, this is years prior to, okay, got it.
Yeah. So
okay.
Just to fill everybody in. So that was years prior. And the reason is because I very unfortunately, back, it was 10 years ago. I'm 10 years clean and sober. Thank God for that. Right. And that's when there was like, you have to figure this out. But what carried with me even after that, what carried with me even after that was, way after that was really the mindset that I was stuck in, right? Because of people I was around. And so, and then, she didn't give me as much of an ultimatum, not that long ago, actually, but it was pretty tight. It was like, hey, you got to figure this out because we can't put ourselves back in a bad spot. And that was about 6 months ago, right? And so like, that's when things really began to change even more again, because now our eyes had already been opened, right? Our eyes had already been opened.
So you mentioned, this is what I'd love to get into. You said you were in a stuck mindset. Having experienced everything you have, how does one get out of a stuck mindset? Because doing what I do a lot of the time, man, I realize people are just stuck in their own head and they can't get out of their own way and they don't have the belief or the vision that they can accomplish this thing. How do you feel like one can get unstuck?
So great question. And really, here's what worked for me, right? And like, number one, changing the environment you're in, right? Like, there's an old saying, my mom used to always tell me, guilty by association. I used to tell her she was crazy. However, with that being said, dude, guilty by association could be negative or positive. What I mean by that is you're in the bad group, you're going to be guilty by association, right? If you're in a good group of people, you're going to be, guilty of success by association.
Right.
Like you can't hang out with a group of 10 people that are doing really well for themselves and their life is together and you're just going to be shot out. Like
that's
you
right.
can't. But really, I think setting small goals and then attaining those goals, right? Like what is within reach? I used to set ridiculous goals and my wife is always like, stop, because they're so far out of reach. Setting little goals to build habits will get you out of the mindset. Very simply put this goal together, attain that goal. Boom, I got it. Put this together, attain that goal. Boom, I got it. And especially for the married guys, right? Like it's important for you to set goals and achieve them because then your wife will see what's possible.
That's right, man. So a couple things that Zack just mentioned there, guys, and couldn't stress this enough and agree with more than enough of this, but environment, right? We've all heard, hey, you're going to be the, what is it? The median of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And the first thing what I heard him say is the environment, but also I love what you said about setting small goals because I've been a huge fan of that because it's so hard for someone who's stuck in that fixed mindset to go like, hey, I'm going to jump the ladder today, right? Let me take 5 steps up versus it's like, hey man, like one step at a time. It's okay to just take that one step today, one step the next day, right? But if you put the pressure on yourself like, oh man, I have to accomplish all these things and you don't hit it. And it's like, dude, all of a sudden it's like, your self-confidence, your identity, your self-image, like all of that stuff kind of drops and goes away versus I think to your point, if you start doing the small goals, that's going to show you like, oh man, this is possible, which is going to start making you believe, giving you belief and giving you the confidence that you need to start going after those bigger goals. I think there's something really powerful about that.
Yeah. And I'll say to the point of like, for the guys, right? For the guys, especially the married dudes, like, so my wife has always been more realistic, right? Like, I'm like, hey, dude, I'm going to make $1 million a month. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And my wife's like, come on, slow down a little bit, right? However, you want to know what defined her moment when her mind was opened up. And this can be for friends and children too. It doesn't matter. A couple years ago, there was a vehicle I wanted. And I was like, I want this car. Before I turn 30, I am going to buy this car. That was my small goal at the moment. And so, and I also very firmly believe like red car theory, what we're thinking we're going to attain and everything else. However, I said, I'm going to buy this vehicle, but before I turn 30, that was my goal. 5 months later, I bought the vehicle.
5 months.
5 months, which was more than a year earlier than when I turned 30.
Wow.
And so like in that moment, right, I was talking to my wife about it. In that moment, I said, this is my goal. And she said, okay, if you think you can do it, right? In that moment, when we were actually able to do it, her eyes were open and she's like, wait a minute. Because now it's like, it's possible.
That's right.
Right? Like our first 20 grand month, it's like, oh, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Our first, when we had a landscaping company, our first job that was 25 grand at just once, boom, it's possible. Right? And so like, again, you got to like set these goals, but once you get to them, don't stop.
Right.
Like keep going. And yeah, those are like huge things, man. Huge things.
So that's the biggest trap that I see people falling into, especially newer sales reps where they've never seen a $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 a month paycheck, dude. They're like, this is it. They'll come in, they'll do it hot, they make all this money, and then next month is like there's no commissions. And they just made so much more than what they're used to making. Oh, I can get by. All I need to do is enough to get by. And then performance isn't there. Like they stop. And I'm just like, gosh, me and Rich talk about it all the time. And we continue, we have almost 300 sales reps now, right? So it's like we see that pattern pretty often, dude. And it's like, why does that happen? I wish it didn't. But, I think if it, I don't know why it happens. I don't know. I think people get comfortable.
They're comfortable being comfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a dangerous place to be, by the way.
Oh, huge.
They're comfortable being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous. Because you just said what happens. They're complacent. Like you have to ask yourself, like, why are you sucking right now? Right. And like in that moment, why are you like, oh, I'm paying my bills and that's cool. Like, do you not want to do anything else?
Right.
But yeah, it's you guys see it with your reps. You can see it online. Like when these people like, oh, maybe their bills are $5,000 a month or whatever. Right. Like, and they do a 10K month. They're like, oh, I'm just going to chill out for the next 2 months.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What do you mean chill out?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And I'm not saying upgrade your lifestyle so your bills are more. I'm just saying, like, what do you mean chill out?
You probably agree, like opportunities you don't last.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, yeah, I went through it. When 6 months into my sales journey, I went through it. Right. And so like in the beginning, great. And before that, we had our company for years. I was in total control of what I made, total control of what I made, the stress, like, how much more do we want to do? Okay, let's ramp it up. Let's do this. I was in total control of that. When I got into sales, I was no longer in total control of that. So literally my sales journey, man, like when I first started, right? I moved out to Phoenix. I would start our time, Pacific time. I'd kick my dialer on because we're 3 hours behind. Yeah. Arizona's 3 hours behind the East Coast. I'd kick my dialer on at 6:30 in the morning. I wouldn't stop dialing until 9 p.m. Pacific because that's as long as I could call. And it sucked. Yeah. But it made me who I am today, right? Mm-hmm. And again, you go back to opportunities. They don't always last.
They don't, man. They don't. Like I've been around so many of them and they're here today, gone tomorrow, but it's crazy. So fun fact, I actually ran a trucking company. That was kind of my first endeavor that I really started. We did over the road, very heavy loads like step deck, RGN, flatbed, stuff like that. But it was a 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. type of a gig, and there was a lot involved with it, and I freaking hated it. Hated it. But were you doing over the road trucking?
Yeah.
Were doing, so
it's not for the faint of heart.
Dude, the number one problem, like all the drivers that we had would have, like, they're away from home, the wives, the family. It's such a difficult career path, man. I mean, like you said, the money's great, right? Like people were making 10, 12, 15K, like driving a truck, but like they're not home and there's all this other stuff going on, and it creates a lot of challenges within, their family and their personal life too.
Well, I can look at my son, my oldest son, in like the timeline that he grew up. He was alive when we filed bankruptcy. He was alive when we were like, dude, where's food coming from? He was alive like through all these things, right? I was also driving truck for many years, like throughout the early time of his life. I was like a weekend dad. Like, Yeah, I talked to him on the phone during the week, great, but like I was just a weekend dad. And then most of the time I was spent at least 8 hours getting my truck ready for the next day. I had a meal prep, clean the truck, get all my stuff together. And then now look at our younger child, which is 7, right? Our younger son. Dude, his mindset is totally different.
Yeah.
Because I'm more present. I just had the best compliment my wife could have ever given me 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago. She literally looks me in my eyes and she says, I thank you for being a present father and a husband.
Dang.
Like, and the changes you see, like you're going back to opportunities. Yeah. Could you go drive a truck and make 10, 15 grand a month? Sure. Dude, I'd rather sit at the hotel balcony or, at an office and make 20, 25, 30, 35 grand a month. And then if I want to go travel, I just bring my work with me and I'll just take a call here. Like the opportunity that we're presented with today, they better harness it because it's not gonna be around forever. And it allows so much more in life. There's just so much more in life.
That's it. I couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. So you mentioned you were a recovering addict and that one day, you want to drive and build a portfolio of sober living homes. How has your maybe personal journey influenced? And we've had a few, kind of recovering addicts on the podcast before, and they certainly help bring a lot of insight and wisdom to a lot of individuals that might be out there struggling right now. How do you feel like your personal journeys maybe influenced that kind of your career and also your mission of what you want to do there?
Yeah, so I come from a long line of addicts, like long line, like dad, brother, uncle, grandpa, like
wow.
Long line. And it's just a long line. So like there were times, again, it's when you're younger, right? Guilty by association, you fall in the trap. But I'd say the best way that it's really like kind of influenced my journey is like, number one, your best position to help the person you once were. I'm a huge fan of that. I can't remember who speaks about it. There's a podcast I listen to, but always saying that, or always being in that mindset, but really also understanding like how truly grateful we should be for the life we have. And that's really what's helped influence my journey. Because I look back to, 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago, I'm like, dude, I shouldn't even be alive. And so like, I know I'm on borrowed time. And also going the direction of like, I know back when I started my journey, the hardest thing for me was I couldn't find somebody else that had gone through what I went through to help me. And so like I went to this inpatient treatment center and I'd sit across from the desk and they're like, oh, here's a textbook. Here's a text. Like, dude, this is nothing for me. Like, yeah, I'm in this treatment facility for however long, 28 days, 29 days. So I'm away from the world, but it's not, yeah, I'm away from the world. What do you want me to do? And so I think there's a huge need for like people that were used to be in those shoes are stepping up to the plate. Like, hey, I once was you. This is what helped me. And really what helped me was like, I just had to come to a point where like, I no longer wanted to live the way I was living. And that was I just had to, like, I had to want help for myself before anything could be changed.
Started with a decision?
Yeah, it was my wife. She's like, she literally, we were living in Texas and she had left, she left with the kids to go for a walk. And then she came back and I was like, where have you been? And she's like, if you don't get it together, I'm leaving. I'm going to Florida. And so like, that's where it was like, man, I need to get my act together, but also trying to discover like, mind you, my wife and I have been best friends since 9th grade. Right. Like, and so her and I went through a lot through high school too, like watch each other grow and change. But like, it came to just a point of like, I wasn't there the way I should have been. And so for me internally, I was like, but this is why I was like that. I was focusing so heavily on the person I did not want to become, which was a family lineage. I did not want to become them. I became them because I focused on what I didn't want versus what is it that I want. But I just had to in the moment be like, all right, enough is enough. Get your act together. You're old enough. and who do you really want to be?
I think there's something also really powerful in helping the person that you once were, and because you've been there, you've done it, and I think there's something fulfilling about that too, right? It's just like a form of giving back and helping. One thing I know is kind of off topic, but to get a compliment like that from your wife, I'd love to get one of those about being more present. Is there anything you did or do now that you know different that allows you to be more present with your children and get that kind of a compliment? Because that's something that I struggle with. I'd love to, if you have any insight you could share with me.
Yeah, I had to. Number one, and people are probably gonna drive. Like people probably would hate this, but listen, I throughout the day, every day, I have time scheduled with my wife and children now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Time block.
Yeah,
Mhm.
with time block, 2 hour time block. We swim. I try to get them to bicycle, but Arizona's hot as all get out. But like really, really just time block, right? And it's not that I don't have time for them throughout the rest of the part of the day,
Sure.
but I know in that time, and my kids know in that time, the kids are like, "Hey, Dad, or is it almost time? It's time. Let's go." Like they know that time is dedicated for them, even if you're only doing 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, right? And then, secondly, was I had been so focused on my vision board. My wife wrote a note: "Don't let your goals and dreams take precedent over your family." And so, like, I look at that every day. It's a note on my vision board. It still sits there. I look at that every day. There's a lot more, more written to it, but that part stands out.
That's powerful.
And I just became I just became more intentional, and more intentional. And then my kids, like my oldest son, told me a couple months ago before I made some changes. He's like, "Hey," he said, "Dad, can you what's more important to you? You spend all this time focusing on these other things and we never see you." And so that was also a moment where I was like, I need to make some changes.
Hearing it from him directly too.
Yeah, it came from my 12-year-old or my
Wow.
11-year-old. Yeah. And so and it was from him direct. He said, "Dad, at what point are you going to make some changes?"
Jeez, that's a hot drop.
Yeah.
I could see how that
direct.
would change a lot.
Yeah. And he's direct. He doesn't care. Like
Mm.
that's just who he is. Like he's going to tell you what he feels. And so I needed that. I told him I was thankful for it. But for me, I was like, all right, it's time to make some adjustment.
I love that, man. I appreciate you sharing. Thank you for that. You emphasize like for you, like drive is everything. And I see a lot of people, they get motivated and motivation kind of drops, right? And I'd like to get inspired from within, right? And so you talk about drive. Can you share a time where maybe your drive like really pushed you to achieve something that you thought was impossible?
Yeah. Part of it goes back to when I purchased the car.
Mm.
Because motivation is great. That's the society we live in. I get it, but motivation will die out. I promise you, motivation will die out. And so I very firmly believe you have to have drive within, but number one is like when we got the car, I'm pushing. And the only reason I did that was to prove a point to myself. It was to nobody else, because the motivation will die out. But if I have this determined drive to do this one thing and I focus my energy on that one thing, you can accomplish it much sooner than you expect. And also, when we started the company, why did we do it? It was the drive that made us, right? We're like, okay, we just want to make $5,000 a month and we'll be comfortable. And then it's like, boom, done. What if we did 10 grand?
Right.
And so we were constantly, again, it's like, my wife and I made the pact when we moved to Florida, we will never go back in the same position financially that we used to be. It doesn't matter what happens. And I think part of that fear drives us also to never go back. Because it's nice. You want to take a trip, let's go, right? And it's not all about that, but it's a comforting feeling.
That freedom is nice.
Yeah, and you just have and everybody's free, time freedom is different for everybody, but that's really what drives me is I want to be able to just, if I just want to go, I just want to go. Or if I want to take a day or two off, I just want to relax with the family. And in just focusing on who I really want to be.
Would you say someone can find drive what kind of you mentioned earlier, like environment and setting small goals and attaining those and kind of working their way up. Is there anything else you kind of maybe want to talk about when it comes to finding that drive?
The most common thing we hear today about drive is, oh, I do it for my family. Oh, I do it for my friends. Oh, I do it for my kids. I do it for this. I do it for that. I like, here's the thing. If you have kids, you have family, like, dude, that's a no-brainer. Like, of course you're doing it for them. Why are you saying this is why I'm doing it? Find something else. Because if somebody told me, like, I'm doing it for, I'm trying to achieve this goal or this goal, right? And that goal was maybe they want to take a trip overseas, or maybe they want to buy a car, or maybe they want to buy a house. That's cool. You're gonna drive for that. Dude, naturally, I hope you're driving for your family already. Like, why do we have to specify that? And so, like, find something. It doesn't matter what. Find some, even if it's you want to take a 2-day trip to the city next door. Go make it happen. Mm-hmm. Next time, let's do 4 days in a couple counties away. Make it happen, right? And then, hey, let's go international. Make it happen. But there has to be something within that literally just pushes you. Why do you wake up every single day?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure for you, part of the reason you do what you do is for your family, right?
It's
like,
all for it. But like, I've also been at the spot where I haven't had the family, I haven't had a wife, or I haven't had a child, and I haven't quite thought like that, and it's like, that's where I'm like trying to go back and see if there's someone out there that's more in that bucket, that's not quite, family man, let's just say yet, or, there, like, it's a lot harder, I feel like, maybe for that individual, but that's more so I was also trying to figure out if there's anything we can share for that. But I think you covered a couple of different things.
Yeah. Maybe they have a desire to have a family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's drive that direction. Or,
that's a great point.
Maybe it's something so simple. I want to take my mom to a Michelin star restaurant. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter how small it is. It's just the fact of doing it.
That's right.
You could literally, again, and this goes back to prove to yourself, I won't touch my phone for 1 hour after I wake up. Find whatever it is internally to make you not do that. And then just do it for something positive, right? And so I think even for the guys that don't have a family, how do they get drive? It's like, everybody has one thing they've always wanted to do. Like, we haven't done everything we want to. Find that one thing. And it's got to be small. It doesn't have to be small. Make it reasonable and just make it happen.
There you go.
And then you just check it off the list and just keep adding to the list. That's all right. Yeah. And you drive to the next point. It's like navigation system.
There you go. You guys just got a roadmap. If you need to go back, I'd suggest going back a few minutes and re-listening to that segment right there. That's powerful stuff, dude. I didn't have any of this advice freaking growing up. There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook. There was no gurus. There was no mentors. I had to figure shit out on my own, and it's just like, I didn't have any of this. So it was just like, it was a little bit more difficult. All I had was one uncle that was super successful. And it made me believe, like, if he can do it, he's my mom's brother, I can freaking do it. I'm come from that same cloth. He built a business. I feel like I could do something big, and it gave me that belief, right? But not everyone might have that uncle figure or somebody in their life that can inspire them that way or show them the way. So that's really tangible advice to anyone out there.
Find that person.
Find that person, man. Find that person. What was it like scaling a business with your high school sweetheart? Any fun or challenging stories you might want to share there?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. We learned very quickly. She's very good at operations. She's very I like to say she's the business minded one. I'm too soft of a guy, man. And it puts us in a bad spot. She is. Here's the thing, because remember, I live with her. We worked with each other. We ran a business together. We saw each other all day, every day. And so what I learned was just like, part of it was like, stay in your lane for this or for that. And also, especially for all the entrepreneurs out there, like, one thing I learned was like my conversations with her she told me years ago, she looked at me, she said, I don't need the business side of you. I need the husband side of you. And so like, because all my conversations, I love business. And so all my conversations were business sided. And so she's like, I don't need the business side of you. I just need the husband side of you. But I mean, yeah, challenges, dude, is like, it goes back to, you have to be on the same page. And thankfully we just so happened to have an unpaid mentor not long after we started our company that took us under his wing.
Wow.
And like, I still am in communication with him today. I'm forever grateful for him. But for husband and wife entrepreneurs, find another husband and wife entrepreneur team to model after, and just don't get frustrated with each other. That's the biggest thing. Don't get like, you're going to disagree. You will disagree, but don't get frustrated. Like, what's it matter? Like, just move on. But yeah, we had stuff like coming to deal with clients, right? Or, hey, I want to do it this way. I want to do it that way. Who's better at it? And it's just like, as long as it gets done,
let's get it done.
Yeah, I don't even care. Like, people would literally, they would come. We had guys that would work with us, right? Work for us. And like, she ran the operation side, dude. I just did what I was told. Like, I helped out in the business, of course, but more importantly, I did what I was told because she tracked what was going on. We'd have guys, like, she'd say, hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z. And then they'd come to me like, hey, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. And her and I had to be on the same page with that, right? Because I had to support her. Because had I told them what to do, they would just run all over her. So I had to support her and saying, I don't know, go talk to her. Even if I knew it didn't matter.
Right.
Because again, my wife and I are a team. We have to support each other. So yeah, just be supportive. Don't get frustrated, and maybe get angry, but get over it quick.
Yeah, and get it done, right?
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite quotes is intention is greater than method. So it's like,
yeah.
Another one of my mentors, he used to have a Vietnamese proverb he came up with, fuck how, with PHUCK, like fuck how. So like, the method doesn't matter, dude. Just get it done. It was like his whole point. So that being said, one more thing I would love to get into, and I'd love to kind of dive into some fun questions. But, I think we talked about environment earlier, right? You mentioned the need to pushing certain people out of your lives because maybe they're draining. How do you identify those relationships, and what advice would you maybe give to someone who's in that situation that maybe just feels like, dude, like this is my cousin or family or a really close friend. We grew up together, high school buddy, but that person's not serving you, in your desires and your vision and your goals today, and is not in alignment with that. Like, what would you tell that person?
I would say it's hard to say no. It's hard to step away from it. But the thing about it is, it only takes one person to change your perspective. So you have to find the one person, and then you have to be okay. Like, for the longest, I wouldn't cut people off. Dude, I have the same phone number since I was 12 years old. Yeah. I've never changed my number because part of me, and now that I'm speaking this out loud again, like, part of me does not want to let go of that past. And I know I need to. Like, I already have another number. Like, I have a different phone, but I use the old number. So part of me doesn't want to let go. It's very difficult to let go. But what's more important, right? Like, you see the same thing with the same people, and it's impossible. It's just like a turtle in a turtle enclosure. They can only grow as big as their turtle enclosure will allow them. And so we look at the same way. Like, if you're stuck there, you can only grow so big. But find one or two people that are doing better than you, and don't become a bother to them. Just serve them in a way, bring value to them somehow, find a way to bring value to them. And then that one person will change your perspective. And then it'll make it okay for you to cut people out. Even if you're doing one for one, just get one good person, cut one out, get one, cut one out. But you have to change your surroundings in order to do that. I don't care if it's moving from Alaska to Florida, dude, get away from it.
Yeah. Would you say the mentor that helped you and your wife early on, the person you just mentioned that was a non-paid mentor, would you say maybe there was a similar kind of relationship there?
Yeah, so he actually runs the mower shop in town.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, we went in one day, and my wife and I, like, we were doing okay financially, but we were a little, like, the equipment we had a lawnmower, and it died on us in the middle of the day. And her and I were a little panicked. Like, before this, we had never spent more than $5,000 in one place unless it was on a vehicle. Mm-hmm. And so like we knew we had to get more equipment. And so we went there and, we sat down across the table. Him and I hit it off. He fell in love with my wife, not in that way. But like, he's like, dude, him and his wife have scaled them more than, I don't know for sure, but I know it's more than likely a multi-million-dollar company, along with like 3 or 4 other companies. And so him and his wife were high school sweethearts. Him and his wife has scaled multiple companies together. And so like, we just jived right away.
There it is.
And it was like, hey, what can I, because you may think like, how can I potentially bring value to this person? But really like part of it just comes back to like, don't be a mooch. And then to a certain extent, you're providing value because most people are going to be asking for something. Would
you also say this individual was maybe once where you guys were, and it's kind of like the addict situation? It's like a form of giving back to the person that you once was.
100%.
That's where I was trying to go with this. Okay.
100%. I don't know for sure, but I guarantee you. Because I know he's been through trials and tribulations.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it from what I hear you saying. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a correlation there.
Yeah. And him and I hit it off really well. And like, we were just in Florida like a couple weeks ago. And we went, talked to him for about an hour and a half. And dude, he's like, I'm forever grateful for that guy. And that's what he's all about. He's about giving back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's freaking awesome, dude. So one of the things we love talking about on this podcast is money, because we're with the mindset that money loves us and that we love money. And that's how we love to attract money. That's how $200 million came into these doors, guys. It's because we love money and money loves us. And at least that's the mindset you got to have in the remote ticket space or in any space if you're looking to be successfully financial, right? Or financially successful. Would you mind sharing like what's been the most amount of money like you've made maybe in a month as a high ticket closer?
Did in total 315,000. Yeah.
315,000.
That was collected now. That's not to me, but
yeah.
But yeah. And so it's like, but you could do triple.
You can start doing the math on that. At a minimum, I would imagine a 10% commission, right?
Yeah. It's higher than that, but
There you go. It's higher than that, guys. Because we've talked about it before. We have accounts where they have tiers, right? Yeah. And you can get up to 15% or more sometimes, just depending. Yeah. But that's freaking awesome, man. What a life-changing moment. That's huge. That's big money.
Especially in high ticket, especially because months before, like I came out of a bad season, dude. I went months and I didn't make any money. I don't even know how we paid our bills.
Jeez.
I don't even know how we paid our bills. And then I just made a transition.
Well, sounds like your mom helped at certain points as well.
No, I'm talking like 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. Mom hasn't helped for, I don't even know how, since we were in Ohio. So this is a long time ago, last time Mom helped. But no, like, probably like 5 months ago. Like I had went through a 2-month spell. We had the money to pay it, I guess. I don't deal with finances. My wife does. Everything was okay. All the bills were paid. And I know it came out of our bank account, but I don't even know how. Like I went almost 3 months without me. I made like $2,000 in like a 3-month period. And then again, that goes back to mindset. And it's like, what do I need to do to make changes? And it was a very difficult decision I had to make, but I had to change. I just had to change course. And so, again, change course and things look up. So, it's like, you have to have the hard conversations and make the hard decisions.
That's it right there. Man, you get comfortable I've gotten comfortable over time having some very uncomfortable conversations, but I've realized that's kind of been my superpower. And most people are just like, they have such a hard time and they think about it. I'm like, dude, this is what we get paid the big bucks for, right? Just having the hard conversations that not a lot of people are willing to have.
And I'll avoid the hard conversations. I avoid it until my wife's like, you've got to have this conversation, because I do not like it. Now,
you don't like confrontation.
I'm not a big fan of. I think it's because I don't want to hurt somebody. I really don't want to. However, over the past couple months, like I literally have it written down. One thing I do every day is I study how to have hard conversations. Yeah. And I'm getting much, much better at it. And it's just a matter of being detached. Like, what is the best option here? And, Because I'll have a super uncomfortable conversation with my wife. Like if we disagree on something, I don't care. I will have that conversation. But like anybody else, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Sure.
So I'm learning, I'm getting better. And by doing that, I've gotten better at sales. That's the coolest part about it.
Mm-hmm.
I learn how to have the hard conversations and be firm. I get better at sales.
Leveling up in sales.
Yeah, because a lot of times we have to have hard conversations.
We do, especially when we get to that after the pitch time, right? Even though you had a phenomenal job in the call, you did a great discovery. Hey, you covered all the bases. Everything was perfect, but you still got to the end of the call, and there's a little bit of hesitation there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we got to have some conversation now.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Do you remember how you found us on school? Was it like a Google search? Was it a school search? Did you already know about school? I was just a curious question that came up.
No, actually, I was looking on LinkedIn because that was quite a while ago. I was looking for a different company to transition to because I had to make a transition from the first company I got into high ticket space with, and I came across one call closers. I'm like, interesting, and then that was around the time where I was like, man, I really got to make some, like my wife was uncomfortable. I needed to make changes. And so I came across it and I found the school. I heard about the school group. I looked at my wife. I said, man, they probably charge for this junk, but I'm going to try it anyways. And so I jumped in. I was like, dude, it doesn't even cost money. That's the coolest part about it. But no, it was through LinkedIn. I think I saw Rich on LinkedIn and I saw what he on his LinkedIn, it shows one call closer. So I start bouncing back. And that's how I came across it. So
dang, okay, that's awesome to hear, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that was right around the time, the 5 or 6 months ago, because I think I checked. I was like, oh, you joined around like February of earlier this year. So that's freaking awesome to hear. That's really cool.
Yeah, because I went most of December, January, February, most of March. I didn't make any money. Half of December, I didn't make any money. So that was right around that time I was looking. Like I was trying to pivot. Where do I go? And what do I do? And also going back to poor mindset, like what value can I really bring to anybody else? And until I was presented with an opportunity that's turned into some amazing things. But it all started with the hard conversation that I had to have. And I put that conversation off for months and I suffered because of it. And my kids suffered it because of it too. Like that's what sucks.
Have the hard conversations, guys. Take it from us. Have the hard conversations. It'll be worth it. It's never as bad as you think it is, right? No. It's always in your head that you like you get analysis paralysis. You just think like, oh, the worst thing's gonna happen, but most of the time the worst never happens, man. It's just like, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Couple fun questions and we'll go ahead and wrap up. And I want to ask if you have any kind of final thoughts or anything as well. Do you have a favorite sales book?
Yeah, actually, the one we were talking about a few minutes ago, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Awesome. You're having your son read that now.
Yes, I'm having him. Yeah, fun. You talk about fun fact. He went to the pet store the other day and he wants a new kitten because my wife has got him loving kittens. And so he came home and he said, Dad, I'm just going to go to my bank account and I'm going to buy the kitten. And I'll buy the food and I'll do this. I'm like, no. Because every time we travel, we got 2 dogs and 2 cats. Dude, every time we travel, we got the pet sitter coming, everything else. And so he bugged me all day and I kept telling him, I'll think about it. And finally I told him, I said, before we came out here, I told him, I said, you know what? I said, read this book. And then I was thinking like, no, he's not gonna be able to, he's only 7. So I said, matter of fact, I'll get you the audio book. You listen to this book all the way through and I'll buy that cat for you. So he started, right? But How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's such a simple book, but it's brilliant. And then also, of course, like Gap Selling, I've read a couple times. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think any book that can. Here's the thing, dude. The best salespeople are the most genuine people.
Right. Authentic, genuine.
Yes. So like the books are great, but just got to be genuine. And but yeah, definitely How to Win Friends and Influence People is one. That's been really helpful.
Sounds like he's going to be overcoming that I need to think about it objection moving forward.
I tell him all the time, dude, when they want something, both of my sons, when they want something, I'm like, you've got to sell me on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, Dad, I want it because. And I always tell them, like, I don't mean to sound this way, but nobody cares what you want.
Yeah,
like me as your dad, I care, but let's step, because here's my thing, right? Like, it's taken us a lot to get our older son out of dude, we've pulled him out of a lot of it, but you talk about a limited belief system that will change the trajectory of a child's life. It's taken us a lot to get him out of that limited belief system. Our youngest son, dude, he swears he'll be a trillionaire by the time he's dead. Like, it's two totally different things of thinking. And so, like, we do have the conversations, like you said, like, because if you know sales, you'll never want for money in life ever again. That's right. And so, like, hey, why should we do this? Why should we do that? And then, of course, it's like, well, I want. I'm like, buddy, in today's world, nobody cares what you want. It's all about what they want and how are they going to get ahead.
With them, what's in it for me?
Yep. Yeah, because that's life today, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite TV show or a movie that's maybe specifically geared towards sales?
Yeah, actually, it's very vulgar, and I probably shouldn't have watched it because I normally don't watch these things. But The Wolf of Wall Street was all right. Yeah. My wife was out of town a couple months ago, and I sat, and the kids weren't at home, so I decided to watch it.
Oh, so recently you saw that?
Yeah, that was
dude, yeah.
That was just recently. Yeah.
We have that playing in here all the time while we're taking sales calls, man.
Yeah,
it was wild.
Yeah, so recently watched The Wolf of Wall Street, and then and you know, my wife and I. You know, we watched Suits. We really enjoyed Suits.
Oh, that's a great show, man. That is a phenomenal show. Yeah. I've seen it 3 times already, and I'm like, I can't wait to watch it a 4th.
Yeah, and I think they're coming out with new stuff.
That would be sweet.
I think they're coming out with one more. I don't know for sure, but I think they're coming out with one more. But then Lincoln Lawyer was another really good one too.
Lincoln Lawyer. Oh, I'm yes. Like, okay. I'm like Lincoln Lawyer. Okay, yep. Lincoln Lawyer. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a pretty good one.
I haven't seen Lincoln Lawyer. Now I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, check it out. Definitely check it out. Okay. But here's the thing: we really try not to watch TV because I feel like there's a lot that you could be doing in that time frame. But I also think it's necessary. You know, it's not necessary to watch TV, but like, just unwind a little bit.
There's a time and a place for it.
Correct. Yeah, don't sit on the couch all day when you should be doing something else and watch TV. Yeah.
We made the biggest mistake with our only child. He's 3 now, but dude, the first year my wife's dad passed away, like a week after my wife gave birth, and she's going through a lot, postpartum depression, and her dad just passed away, and she's going through school and working at the same time, a lot going on, and the easy thing to do was just like put the TV on, right, and keep them occupied. And the first year, man, the worst thing we could have possibly done to anyone out there, I would not recommend. Kind of minimized it throughout the second year, and like we just made a decision like a couple weeks ago. We completely 100% cut out screen time, and we're reading a book on it right now. But he's 3 and he's not talking, dude. You know, and I don't. We found out now he's on the spectrum for like autism as well. So it's like we don't necessarily know if it's because of that or whatever, but it's like a lot of different stuff we're thinking about. But yeah, one of the things like we 100% cut out for now, and I'm sure there's going to be a time and a place for it, dude, but no screen time, no screen time. And we've already just in the last like 2 weeks seen a significant difference in them.
That's the same thing with our oldest son on the spectrum as well. And so like,
interesting.
But for all the parents out there that have children, let them harness their superpower.
Right.
They have a superpower in them, right? So like our kid, both of our kids are homeschooled. We don't send them to public school. And so like our oldest son, thankfully, like he very much so he tests out at a much higher like high school grades. And so like we understand where his strengths, and that's partially why we homeschool, because we like to focus on their strengths. Like your weaknesses are important, but like as an entrepreneur, dude, I'm just going to hire somebody for my weaknesses. I'm not even going to worry about it. And so like, let them focus on their strengths. But yeah, for the kids, and then really the more time you spend with them, the more changes you'll see out of your children as well, because they'll be able to reflect off of you.
That's why I was asking some questions earlier about like, dude, how do you do that? And you helped me out. You gave me some stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. I know there's a time block for it, but like, am I really 100% present during that time? Because the phone's dinging, and I got a lot of hats I wear in the company, and this is happening, that's happening. But it's like I gotta just be like, dude, no phone for that hour. Yeah. This is just for my son. Engage with him. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, because he's not talking yet and stuff too. So it's like getting him to pay attention is just a little bit difficult, but I'm sure I'm working on it. There's things that we're doing every day that I think are getting better and improving. for sure.
Well, you could even do 15-minute, right? You could get like, I don't know if you have a bicycle or not, like get a bicycle with a little basket thing on it. You know, the kids' basket.
Yeah.
Just run around the block and like leave the phone at the house, right? And it's only like 10 to 15. Yeah, like mine.
I do that kind of stuff, but like my wife kind of calls me out and she says like, are you really engaged with him when you're just because you're going out on a walk for him, or maybe I take him to the pool or whatever, and like I'm doing stuff, but like, am I really engaging? And like, you know, is he, you know, that's the part where I'm like, am I supposed to be doing more? And like, there's all these question marks. There's no, you know, playbook on this stuff, right? So it's like, you're figuring it out, dude.
Yeah, there's no book on how to raise children. It doesn't matter. But yeah, like it doesn't, and I've noticed too, though, it's not a being there, right? But remember, a child, especially if your child's on the spectrum, especially, they can read and feel energy. They know when you're present.
Massive.
So like, and so if you're present emotionally, right? Like your child will know that. So, but we can all get caught up in the, like, am I not doing enough? Am I not good enough? Did I not this? Did I not? What does it matter if we did or didn't? Or what does it matter if we didn't do that? Let's just focus on what we did do. And like, I did do this, or I did do that. Because we could sit here all day and talk about what we didn't do that we probably should have done. But just do more of what you already did, right? And yeah, your child, like I know our children, they feed off of energy. I feed off of energy. I'm sure your child is the same way. Everybody else's child is the same way. And they know when you're
when I'm on my phone, he comes up to me like, what are you doing? And it's like, he feels that. And it's like, yeah, it's crazy. It's so wild. I'm like, I like throw it away and I'm like, what the crap, dude, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they pick up on that stuff.
It's huge. Okay. I want to talk offline about a couple things, but to wrap it up, last question. Is there a dinner you would like to have with someone, specifically more so like, doesn't have to be a sales thought leader, but if it is, you know, sales thought leader, ideally, dead or alive, is there someone you would have dinner with, and who would it be and why?
One person that I would really, really like to have a dinner with, right, is Ed Milet. Like, he's changed a lot. Dude, he's been like massive impact on my life. I tell my wife all the time, and I'm joking, I'm like, I'd give anything in the world, right, for an hour. And so like, that is one person I would really, truly like to sit down with, engage with, be present with. But I've never been one to like focus solely like on like sales leaders. I'm always like, how can I be a better person?
That's right.
And then on your calls, when you are doing sales, like they read off of your energy. A closer knows whether they're going to close somebody. As soon as they get on the call, within 5 minutes, they know.
100%.
They know. And like, because again, it goes back to energy. You can feel the energy.
Yeah. I would tell Rich, dude, every time I jump on the phone, I said, Rich, give me 30 seconds. I'll tell you exactly if I'm going to close this person or not. You do it enough, dude, you're like, you already kind of get a vibe, right? And I've been in a household where, you know, I've experienced some stuff, and emotionally, I would say I'm a little bit more intelligent. I might not have the best IQ, but I have the EQ, right? The emotional intelligence. And I'm able to read that kind of stuff pretty easily. So at least it comes naturally to me, I feel like. But you're 100% right, dude. Within the first few minutes of the call, like, you would know if this person is closing or not, you know?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And even if you feel like they're not, just have fun with it. See if you can close them anyways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you got something more important to do. But I mean, I've closed some people that I swore they wouldn't close.
Yeah.
And at the end, they're like, yep, let's do it. I'm like, okay, you got it.
I have to, and I'm glad you brought that up. The way I've done it, I'd love to hear if you know how your process maybe looks like. But when I get on that call and I get that vibe, and I'm just like, I'm not feeling it, I almost want to get off the call. I'll almost do everything to not get them to buy, almost like push them away, so I'll qualify them. And then the more I do that, the more I realize they want to reel themselves back in, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, they kind of sold themselves on me. Like, I didn't have to do any selling, and they want it. I got to give them the opportunity. It's kind of what I've figured out with those type of individuals. Well,
yeah, it's because everybody wants what they can't have, right? Like, okay, it goes back to this philosophy of like, right? If guys are hanging out at the restaurant or the bar, right, and there's a female over here just hanging out, and you know, maybe she's got a ring on her finger. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, younger guys are like, "Hey, man, bet you can't get her number. Bet you can't get her number. Bet you can't get her number." And guess what? Somebody's gonna try.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, again, it's a desire to want what you
have. It's so powerful.
So, like, these people that you're pushing away, they're like, why won't he let me? they feel entitled to have, like, I need this, I want this. And so like they're pulling themselves back in, like, it's because they feel like they can't have it. And you're not letting them feel that way. So they're naturally they're gonna pull themselves in.
Dang, dude, that's funny. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Any final thoughts of anything that I haven't brought up or that maybe we haven't talked about that you feel like, hey, you'd want to kind of share with the listener out there today?
No, other than just like the top 3 things, man. It's like, number 1, find out why you wake up every day. That's your drive. Number 1, focus on drive. Number 2, have the hard conversations and make the hard decisions. Those are 2 in 1. And really just be humble, dude. Be humble. And all that stuff will shut off on calls, especially on calls, and people will pick that up.
So from the moment I met you, I'm like, okay, he seems like a super humble dude. That was my kind of first impression.
Yeah.
And Rich always gives up that vibe too. And he's never changed since the day I met him. I knew Rich before, like, he had money and he was addicted to video games, and like he didn't have any of this today. And so it's like he's always been that same person. Yeah,
and being humble is important. Being humble is really important. One thing you can do with your kids to help them be humble is go feed the homeless, stuff like that. And they'll remember that, and they'll know how grateful they really are. But
talk about perspective.
Yeah, you talk like we have a team. We have a team. I think it's 28 VAs in the Philippines now. I think it's 28, 29. Anyways, like we'll run, like we'll do spiffs for them or whatever, like, bonuses. And so we're like, hey, if you hit this metric this week, it's $25 US bonus. Oh my goodness, they're so happy. Yeah, they're so happy, right? We have like the one VA that's directly under my wife. That's all he does is do what she needs him to do, and like take great care of him. Recently made some adjustments with his pay, and the dude's like forever grateful. And so like puts it in a perspective. Like when you're like, hey, here's a $25 bonus if you hit this metric. Oh, they are dude, they're all over the place. Could you imagine you give that to like somebody here? Like, here's $25 if you do this.
Barely buy some lunch.
Correct. It brings it back.
That exchange rate, bro, is intense over there, Which I was leading to, is that maybe part of the reason why you guys are planning to go to the Philippines at all? Is it related to your business?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're having, we're having a meeting out there. The company that we're helping scale right now, that's where pretty much all the VAs are at. And yeah, so we're going to go out there and do some, we have a really strong team, We did, like, there was, I was joking around the other day, and all of them are like, hey, we want to be here forever. And I was joking around with them, and I said, like, because remember, this is for a company we're helping scale, right? Not mine specifically, but I told them, I said, hey, we just brought on a bunch more people because we're going to see who's best, and we're just going to cut the team in half. And so like they laughed, and some of them got nervous. One of them left. They were like, but interesting. Yeah, it was interesting. Of course, my wife wasn't happy I said that. But anyways, like it goes back to like I speak with them regularly. And I think that's also partially what keeps me humble, because I'm like, these people are living over there, and we give them $25 or $50 bonus, and they're like ecstatic about it, right? $25 to $50 to us, like you can't even take your wife and kid out to dinner.
Maybe lunch, maybe.
These
days. Fast food here in California, I don't know if you've gone out anywhere yet, dude, but it's $15 to $20 for like just a basic meal. One person.
I got McDonald's on my way here this morning. It's like $12. Yeah. And I don't even eat that much. So yeah, $25, $50 to us, dude, it's gone in a flash, dude.
That's crazy.
In a flash.
For those of you guys that don't know, you guys heard like Zack's entire story. You guys heard all the ups and downs, guys, like all the different opportunities he had. And what he's able to accomplish now, he's actually started his own sales agency. So that's what he's talking about now, and he's been able to scale that relatively in the last few months, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, $500,000 for $500,000.
$500,000, guys. That's no joke, man. That's no joke.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, dude. It's so much fun. It is so much fun. And again, it goes back to you're in total control, right? Like that's one thing I didn't like about when I first got into sales. I was told I'm in total control of how much I make, but you're not until you're actually in control. And so like, that's one thing that I'm grateful for is I know now, like if I want to make more money, I just make more money. And I'm not saying like you turn on a water spigot and money just pours out, but you make the right moves, you can make more money. And it's all about providing value. and that's going to dictate your pay.
Bam! Let's end it right there, man. I think that's a good way to end it. So appreciate you jumping on. Let me just let you guys know. Guys, if you're interested to coach with us, if you're interested to get one-on-one coaching, click the link in the description below, the first one. And if you're interested, guys, to join our school community where Zach found us, make sure you click that second link in the description below, and you'll get free access to 5 days a week live coaching, plus a curriculum, plus all of our past recorded coaching calls. You're going to get a framework. You're going to have all the tools that you need, guys, to be successful in this space. And if you're looking to get coached by us one-on-one and start making some money and get placement within our sales agency, make sure you click that first link in the description, guys, and schedule a call. You'll probably chat with me or somebody else on the team about it. But that being said, Zach, it's been awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming down. And I know the trip wasn't like we're not right around the corner from you. So I really appreciate it, dude. I've had a blast. It's been awesome.
Likewise, man. Likewise. And it really, everybody take advantage of the school community. And I don't say that. Like, I mean that intentionally because there's so much value in there. There's a ton of value in the school community with all the classes and stuff.
There you have it. Let's do it again.
So, you got it, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.
See you guys.